Perfect. Sorry, in last session, we said we'll be meeting again after 10 minutes of break, but unfortunately we stopped as the content or the discussion overloaded. So we'll continue that today. So we have developed our application using the annotations, metadata annotations relevant. We have created some sections, and we have also created some of the group of information on the object page, and we have learned what is list page and what is object page as well. And then we thought of creating multiple sections of information under multiple groups of information under one section, that is anchor tag we referred as, but we didn't do that. So now we are going to create the same group of informations under one section today using annotations. So basically we are using the field group and facet annotations available under UI annotations. Okay, so let us look at the application and see what we have done. And we also saw what was the issue with this local annotations. So local annotations were disturbing us proceeding further, whereas the local annotations were generated during our application generation. And today we try to create that subgroups under one section, and we try to deploy this application onto the system. And also we will try to understand the Launchpad configuration little more, and we will be studying about the catalogs, about the groups and roles, enabling the Fiori application, deployed Fiori application to the user using a role. And we see those kinds of topics today once we develop this application. So perfect. So this is what we have built so far. It looks like a genuine or pretty well functioning application. That's cool. So now in this object page, whenever we navigate, so we have added our information like this, but we are going to fulfill, or we are going to add this information, trip status and admin data and all these. I don't want them to be a simple or a little information to be treated as a separate section. So I wanted that immediately next to this trip information. Okay, and also like this. I don't want to keep this empty space just like this. I want to utilize this space with some other additional information like small groups. So let's go ahead and see where is our metadata extension file. So this is my metadata extension file, and we have seen this field group reference type. And now we are going to enhance this little further. And in this facet, I'm going to introduce an ID to this. So I'll use this ID for the sections. So if you see, I have given this ID as header info. And now I'm going to use this type as collection here. Okay, So this collection is also referring to the section. Basically, if we can use a field group or a collection. So collection means it's specifically referred as a section. So if you see here somewhere, yeah. So we have collection here, and this collection is have been referred as trip items. And in this trip items, if you see, we have this as a section here. So field group, we just to specify the information like small groups under this section. That's how we just do it right now. So we have header info ID here, and the trip header information is going to be my title. So it is going to be same as like this. And now this target qualifier, we know why this is, but for this one, for collection, we do not need this target qualifier because we are not going to add any of the fields here. But in this place, once we define the section, we are going to build the relationship between these facets. So this facet, what I'm going to say is, this is going to be my where is this one? Yeah, trip status and some other information. We have trip ID from country to country. Okay, and let's say basic information. Let's copy this block here and paste this one. I'm going to say this one as basic information, and target qualifier is going to be basic info, and this is going to be the field group reference. Purpose is standard, and I'm going to include one more keyword here, that is going to be the parent ID. So this is where I'm building relationship with this header info. So where this block needs to be displayed. So I'm saying this parent ID, yes, this is the parent ID. And also I'm going to introduce another keyword here, position. So position, again, we can increment by ones or 5 multiples or 10 multiples. It's according to our wish. So this is what the configuration we are going to do for this block. And let me put this basic information target identifier. So right now we're done with one block under header info. And this basic information is going to be my qualifier for all the fields that I'm going to display under basic information. So in this section, if we see the identification is 10, that's fine. And where is the qualifier? Yes. So right now it is being trip header, but I'm going to change this as basic info right now. And from country again is going to be same. And this one also is going to be basic information. So let me try to activate this one. So if I activate this one, immediately we should be able to see the information or reflected on the application straight away. Basic information, if you see, so we have trip header information section. Under this section we have this basic information. The basic information is going to be these fields. And now the next step, what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this trip status as a section, and I'm going to include that trip status next to this basic information here. So let us try to do that. So it's now a straightforward thing. So if you see, this parent ID and this position is important for us. So I'm going to take that one, and trip status, it's a field group reference. And here we are going to remove, sorry, this is required trip status. And the only thing we need to add is parent ID. Still, I want to display this under header information section, but it's going to be my position 10. So which is next. So next to this one. Okay, let me activate this one. I think we have the status field already available in using this trip status qualifier. So if we go down and look at this trip status, it is being already used as a trip status qualifier. So that's fine. So let us go ahead and refresh our application, and we will see the trip status next to this basic information, and it has been removed as a separate section. Okay, so now we can add similarly to this admin data. So when it was changed and who created it and etc. So same thing we are going to do for admin data as well. So in the admin data, same, we again place this parent ID and position. Okay, so in here it's again under header information, and this is going to be my 15. That means the third position. So that's cool. So let me activate this one. So we must activate it before we test it. So if we forget to do so, we will not be able to see our updated annotations here on the UI5 application. So if you see, it's pretty much happy with this. So whenever user comes here and he see only 2 sections, and within the section itself, we are able to add the multiple facets. So these are referred to as facets, but internally these, as it is having the multiple fields as a group, so we refer this as a field group reference. So with the parent ID and this one, we will be able to distinguish between this one. And our next one is trip items here. So these trip items, it's not going to be a field group like this, but instead we are going to add an association as a trip items here. So it's going to have a table of information at this place. So we have a simple annotation available there. So in this case, we have this trip items ID label is going to be the trip items, and in this place, the type whatever we have here, we just going to, so this is an additional block. We do not want this anymore. So this one trip items, we are going to reference this as a line item. So as we discussed yesterday, so we are going to refer this as a line item reference, and this target element is going to be same underscore items. If you see, this is going to be the annotation, sorry, association that we have in our consumption view here. So underscore items, and this same underscore items is going to be our annotation association, and in the target element we are going to assign that association to the line item reference. So now we will see some error there. That's fine. Let me activate it. So let us refresh this one. So we see some error because there are no columns selected on this particular trip items. So now we might be thinking, okay, that's fine. So as we have the annotations written on our header, that's fine. But how do we deal with these associations? So this is the association we have created here. how can we write metadata extensions onto these associations? So that question might be running in our mind. So how this CDS engine treats, we do not need to write association relevant annotations in this header. So whatever the association have been built from the CDS view, what is the association coming from where this association is coming? So that's where we should be going in. And in this place, if you see, this is the association CDSU. And what is this? This is the association CDSU exactly. So now, as we do not have the consumption CDSU for this T items, so that's the reason we must be creating consumption layer CDSUs for each layer. So if we go into this CDSU level, it's not going to be the consumption layer, right? So it's always a good idea to have a consumption view if we are writing metadata extensions. So as we do not need to write any association relevant annotations at this stage. Whatever the associations we write at the T items consumption level, those annotations will be picked up for automatically by the system. So here, though it said no field selected and things like that, still it shows all the list of fields. If you see, they are meaningless, cat 255. So if user goes and looks at this list of fields, it doesn't make any sense in terms of user. So what is this country, region, and key? So everything, it's a completely in the wrong way of doing it. So in that case, let us go ahead and deal with it. So I'm going to create a consumption CDSU for this one. And at the same time, I'm going to use that into our consumption layer as well. And also, as we are planning to build the transactional behavior for this one, I would like to have a composite layer as well for this one. Okay, so each layer I am going to connect those respective layer CDS views at this place. So now I have interface layer, basic layer CDSU, and now let me go ahead and create another CDSU with the consumption layer, composite layer. So ZTH composite items. So I'm going to create T items. So composite, and I'm going to use this as my reference. That's okay. And now I'm going to create a define view entity for this one. Go ahead and finish it. So in this case, we definitely need semantics dot amount dot currency code. So it's going to be currency. That's fine. And now let me activate this one. So we know that this is going to be our composite layer, and on top of this, I'm again going to create a consumption view. See T items. Consumption, and I'm going to take this reference. If I take this reference, it straight away goes ahead and inserts all my fields here. And again, I must need to include this annotation amount dot currency code, as it is a reference field. So here we go. I have my consumption view here ready. And we know that if we are planning to add some metadata annotations on top of this, but to do that, we must have the metadata extension allowed, metadata.allow extension, true annotation. Otherwise, we won't be able to create the metadata extensions. So perfect has been created now. And now these views are not reflecting in the consumption, the composite or consumption views of trip header. So here at this place, composite composite view items, or we can connect even the lower level of it. But I would like to connect, sorry, not this one, this one here. So at this place, I do not want to use the basic of it. Instead, I would like to use the composite layer here. So composite layer of items. So rest everything is same. So let me activate this one. And if we are adding any of these fields onto the composite layer, then it may be a good idea to include the association here itself. Otherwise, if we don't have any calculations or something based on this, based on these items, then we can straight away go ahead and add these associations on the consumption as well, so that it doesn't go down the layers, make complicate. So we can straight away go ahead and add these items association on the consumption itself. So right now, as we are writing the metadata extensions on our consumption view, so again we have to go and to our consumption view of trip planner, and we must include this association here at the consumption layer. Otherwise, it definitely not going to influence or get the metadata extensions. So let me write association here. What is the change? That's okay anyway. Association, it's going to be star to the items consumption view, as underscore items on projection dot, what is this, trip items, trip id equals to underscore items dot trip id. So in this case, we are rebuilding the association based on the consumption view. I would, yeah, that's perfect. So in this case, you may confuse that. Okay, so here we are defining items again, and there is items association in my composite view again. Sorry, not this one, here. So in here we have items association, and also we have the items association on this consumption layer level. So how does it gonna treat? So it's a straightforward that whatever the the down layer associations, and if we give the same association redefinition in the top layer, it's going to override the the down layers associations. So in this case, these items is completely belongs to this CT items. Okay. So now let us, I think it is activated. And as we have changed these ones, and we may see some difference in this one as well. Let me go ahead and run this one. So the interesting thing, whenever we work with WebIDE and backend CDS view annotations is, so whenever we change it, it's not going to store any annotations locally here. So these annotations, whatever we see, they just refer to the source and some of the Microsoft relevant Oasis or whatever the OData standards. That's it. So they will be mentioned here. But in reality, whatever the minute level annotations in this annotation modeler, if you see here, external annotations. So these are all the annotations, whatever we see here, facet and field label and etc. So these are all defined in the backend itself. So these all annotations are not going to be stored in the WebIDE development tool. So on the runtime, whenever we refresh the application, runtime, it's gonna get all the annotations, and on the fly, it's gonna prepare the UI for us. So if I select this one, and again, same here, trip items is going to be no meaning here. So let us go to the backend and write metadata annotations to this trip items. See trip items consumption view. So this time I'm going to right click on core data services, because the core data service metadata is the core data service category. ZTH extension or metadata extension T items. Metadata and extended entity. So this is the reference, and let's go ahead and annotate entity, finish it. And if you see, it has pre-populated that one, and we are pretty sure about this layer, what layer we are going to use here. And from here onwards, it's again going to be same. So we just include all the fields, and now we are going to give the relevant annotations here. So let me go to our, let me close these ones. So we can take a reference, or we can copy some of the information from here. Okay, so first let's start with this one, then it will be easy. So if we start preparing from the beginning, we may end up confusing ourselves, but these facets can be added later once we build our fields, so how they want it to be. Okay, so let me define my line item positions in the starting, and also with their labels if we want. So line item position, it's going to be 10. So trip item, and I do not want this trip ID, because I already have this trip ID available right top on the page. So again, I do not want to display it on my trip items table. Instead, I can add another field here. So But instead, if the user wants to pick this up, and I will leave this for user choice. I do not want to hide it completely on the UI. So I'm just going to add the label for this one, trip ID, where I already have my trip ID. And let me copy that one here. And from country to country, these two also I have, from country and to country. So end user text label. So in this case, as I'm not going to make this um, as a parent or a root, I do not want to include the selection fields for them. And at the same time, I'm going to include the description for to country. So position, its position is going to be 30, and city from city to city. From city is going to be 40, or city from country, and city to country. And here I'm going to trip start date, and it's gonna be 60, and trip end date, let's make it 70. Trip end date, and travel mode, so let's make it 80. Let's give the description as travel mode. And now I will leave this local contact without including in the table, but instead I will just mention the label local contact and local address, and this one the total expenses. So we must need this on the UI, total expenses, and I will include this as part of let's say from country to country, and immediately after 50 I'll add this as 55. Okay, and this one I'll add the label currency and travel mode comments. It's going to be the currency, and this one is going to be comments. So perfect. So we have defined the ordering of the columns on the items right now. So it's perfect. Is it activated? Yes, it's activated now. Let us go ahead. Sorry. Let us go ahead and just refresh this one. So once we refresh this page, it should pick up the annotations that we have built onto the table, and it should bring all the information for us. So if you see now, we have the information, whatever we have defined, the order and labeling, everything in our metadata extension here on the items. So everything has been populated accordingly. So if you see one interesting thing here, the total expenses, it is showing the currency key as well here. So this one we haven't included as part of the initial display. If you see, there is no additional column as well. So in our metadata file, we have this currency as a independent column. But if you see here, we have this as a single column here, right? So this one, how it is coming, how it is being populated, that is because we have specified, where is that one? We have specified semantic annotations here. So this is what is taking the effect on the UI side. So this semantics is affected in the similar way wherever, if you work on analytics side or BI BW side, wherever. So definitely we have, if we have some currency or a unit quantity fields, definitely we should be having this semantics annotation. So previously, I think up to 7.52 or 5 versions, the semantics annotation was not mandatory. So it was up to developer to mention that in the CDSU. But recently it has been made mandatory. If you have any quantity or currency fields, so then you definitely need to include the semantics at each layer or each CDSU where those fields exist. Okay, and whatever the fields, those we have not included in as part of initial display, they still exist in this personalization. So this is called personalization. Those fields are already included here, and everything has been made a meaningful descriptions for those columns. And now if user definitely wanted to have these columns on their display, even if you see currency is an additional column available on this actually. So in this case, if you want any of them or all of them, you just select them and display them. So they just display as there is no further space available there. So they will display as it is. Okay. So now if you want to build a further navigation on this one, so okay, so I don't want to display these fields like this, but instead I would allow user to choose a specific entry from here. And if user chooses that one, then let the user go ahead and see the information in next page, like object page here that we have developed for header information. So then you just follow the approach what we followed for a header. So like this, you just include the identification annotations and field group annotations along with the sections and the facets. Those we have configured on the header CDSU metadata extensions. If you follow this and put on your items metadata extensions, it's gonna have a navigation straight away from here. It will allow user to choose one of this entry, and it will take you further, and it will display you the details. Okay, and this is one thing. And now in the latest versions, we have something called a flexible column layout. The flexible column layout, again, whenever we see a new term or new thing we are hearing, then we can the single place for us is to look at those functionalities in experience.sap.com. So in this experience.sap.com, if you go and look at Fiori design guidelines, so explore our guidelines, let's go into there, and SAP Fiori, that's fine, and explore is the place where we go, and you just type with the keyword flexible. So flexible column layout, if you see flexible column layout, we see in the search, and if you see this one, flexible grid and flexible column layout, and in this flexible column layout, this is how the layout is going to be. So the page, whatever we see here, that's gonna be divided into 3 parts, whereas you can have access to your main master list, and also you can have your items displayed next to the master list. It's like a kind of master detail, but master detail will have only 2 columns, and this third column is going to be if you select something on your middle layout. So this is left, middle, and right, but how SAP calls it as begin layout, mid layout, and end layout. Begin, end, and mid. So in this case, middle layout is expanded, and end layout is also expanded. So we have some terminology around this one. If we go into how we can enable for our application. So once we see the application, we'll get some idea. So right now, if we click on this one, it's completely going to next page, but I do not want this to happen. So instead, I want to see the list still available at the left side of the page. So in this case, how we do, let's go into the resources, development resources, and there are how those columns are divided and etc. that has been explained in detail with respect to the size of the devices, whether it is a small device, medium screen device, or large scale, and Excel, all those things. Whenever if we specifically asked for these kinds of layout, or whenever we are building a report, and basically this is recommended to go with the flexible column layout, the user experience will be good. And in those cases, whatever the device we are working, based on that we can go ahead and look at it. And this one, this is going to be sample documentation. Let's go into the documentation, for example. So come on, I didn't expect that. Column semantic helper, flexible column layout. So basically for this one, we will not be doing anything in our CDS, but instead we will be making small correction in our manifest file. So that's going to be a small correction. That's not going to be a big one. In this case, we have a lot of samples available here. Let me pick up the right one, flexible column layout with nope. with event bus. Come on. So okay, let me pick the first one here. We just need to have this one. If you look at this one, this is how the layout is going to be for us. Okay, and even if you select this one, if you see again, there is a further display here. So in this case, how we are going to achieve this one? It's a at come on, this is the wrong approach. Think I'm making you confused, but let me straight away go into our manifest file, because our application is Fiori elements based application. Our application is not a code based application. So whereas it is taking us to the code based implementation or freestyle UI5 application, how we achieve the flexible column layout. But in this case, we will be going into the code editor, and in the code editor we have the template listed down. So we have already traversed some time with this one. So if you see here, we have the generic app, and it is using all the templates here. So what is the entity set is being used and etc. That's fine. But now if we see here the pages and this version, and here we will be having the settings. So next to this one, we will be having settings, and in the settings we will be having the flexible column layout, and this flexible column layout is going to be I think, let me have a look. I have the URL for this. So there are fixed values for this one. So we do not want to remember all those values. Let me find out the URL where it is. A web programming model for Fiori. Come on. Come on. So it should be in the documentation. Developing apps with Fiori elements. List report, and this one should be here somewhere. Extending list report. And something elements based app. Enabling flexible column layout. This is the one. If you see, the flexible column layout has been displayed for us. So here it describes about the values which we should use on that particular settings. 2 columns begin expanded. So 2 columns, I don't want 3 columns. I want only 2 columns, 1 and 2. Begin is expanded. That means the first column is bigger. So whereas it will occupy the mid layout space as well. And the second one is going to be narrowed down. So that's what this the meaning is going to be. And if you see the next value, meaning 2 columns mid expanded. So the middle layout expanded means that's going to occupy the end column space as well. So that's how it's going to be. So here 3 columns mid expanded. So 3 columns, I want middle one to be bigger and rest both of begin and end to be smaller, like this. Okay, and this one end expanded, and wherever if we want, we can straight away go ahead and make them bigger. And these are the annotations which we should use in our settings. If you see here, this is the settings. Let me copy this settings as it is and place it in our project. So flexible column layout, default 2 column layout type, 2 columns mid expanded, and default 3 column layout is going to be 3 columns end expanded. So if we use 2 columns, so it is on demand, right? So let me save this one. It is already saved. And let me go ahead and refresh my app. But rather doing that, let me re-execute it. So whenever we are in 2 columns, then what needs to happen to this one? If you see, we are in 2 column layout at the moment. So end is expanded. That's what the first value means. Okay, default 2 column layout. What needs to be done? 2 columns mid expanded. But if you make this change to 2 columns begin expanded, I'm not sure if that value is available or not. So let me go here. Is that correct? Yeah, begin expanded, 2 columns begin expanded. The value is correct. And let me go back and execute, refresh it. This value is saved. So in this case, whenever we use 2 columns, then I don't want my item to be bigger. My list has to be bigger. So if you see here, so the arrangement automatically has been changed, right? So if you want to make it bigger, we have an option here. So we can straight away go and make it bigger. And if you want to even make it bigger, we have a full screen option here. So it goes back to our original display here. So these are all the additional things where we have available for our flexible column layout. So we can even make it as it is, and if you don't want, we can close that one completely. And the second column, setting here, whatever is available, 3 column default, 3 column layout type. So whenever we are in 2 columns, it's going to treat like this. And as we have seen, if there is further navigation on this one, so this is going to launch our third column here. So in that case, how your 3 columns needs to be displayed? That's what this second setting is describing here. So if you have 3 columns, how the initial display is going to be? If user launches or runs on a 3 columns layout, then how you want to be. So what is the setting here? 3 columns, end expanded. That means the third column, whatever we're going to see here, that's going to be bigger than these 2 columns. Begin and mid columns will be smaller, and the end column is going to be bigger than these 2 columns. Okay, so and on top of this, if we see any additional settings or being carried out in the manifest, this is how we just go ahead and make the changes on our manifest here. So if you want to add another navigation here from this one, again, we can add in our CDSU, or we can, if we feel that the page or the navigation property already available on the OData service, and straight away we come here and we define the navigation at this place. So we use pages and we copy this one and we paste it again, and here in place of navigation properties, the object page property, we just specify the additional navigation property here, and we specify the entity set name here. That's what is going to happen. Okay, but generally whenever we add another navigation in our application, then automatically the app is going to generate the annotations on the fly by the UI5 runtime, and it's gonna adjust automatically. So if you see any differences, then you can come here and adjust, or it's absolutely fine. You don't need to worry about anything. You can completely delete this application here, delete your project, and you can regenerate it. So that is also going to do the same thing. But for enabling flexible column layout and etc., so these settings, again, you have to redo these flexible column settings, because these are not generated as part of CDS metadata extensions. Okay, so in this case we have some functioning application. So whereas we can straight away give this for the user for reporting purpose, but still what we see some incomplete information on these keys. So from country GB, to country IN, and these state BEN and APN something, that is trip status yes and something. So they are not still looking good. So we will be adding some additional value helps onto our consumption CDSU. They are automatically going to reflect accordingly here. What does GB means? What does IN means? What does AP means, and etc. Okay, so before doing that on the CDS, let's take a little diversion on this application. So let's deploy this onto the system, and let's register this on the Launchpad and see how a tile can be created on the Launchpad for this particular application. So till now, end user is not able to access this application. So what we are doing, we are just developing the CDSU and enhancing it and putting some metadata, and we are just still in the development platform. So it is nowhere exist in the system yet. So let's deploy this application onto on-premise. So here, the deployment point of view, we will have 2 options in the real time. So whenever you deploy, the deployment can happen on cloud, that such as BTP, or the deployment can happen back onto the on-premise system, which is a ABAP system, basically. So we are not going to deploy this to BTP. We are going to deploy this to on-premise system. So if we deploy this to BTP, then that's completely different approach. But we will do that when we work on Business Application Studio. So when we work on Business Application Studio, we will use all the cloud capabilities. But for now, as we are working on WebIDE and we do not have access to connect to the BTP from this, so we are not going to do that in this case. So we are straight away going to deploy this application back onto the on-premise, which is ABAP system, S4 HANA system. And we are going to use the Launchpad service available on the on-premise system itself. So let me right click on this one. So once we right click, we will see a deploy button, deploy option here. So in here, we have the deploy to SAP UI5 ABAP repository. So if you click on this one, it's going to ask us what is the system we want to deploy. So by default, we have the Tara backend system. But in real time, if you have multiple systems available in the backend, it's going to display all the list of systems. Those are available as an ABAP systems, on-premise systems. So now it's going to collect the information from backend, and it's gonna check the compatibility as well between the versions. So whatever the version we are building the application, so we know that our application is limited to 1.52, but actually our backend system is compatible up to 1.907, 90 and 7. Okay, so we are not able to utilize the maximum version capability because of the WebIDE limitation. So this WebIDE personal edition is limited to use 1.52 version of the UI5, and there are a lot more functionalities released for customer after 1.52. So we are not able to implement them, because if we use them, our application is not going to be deployed to backend, and we will not be able to test that using the WebIDE as well. How we are testing our application here? So if we use some keywords that are not available in 1.52 and which are available more versions, more than 1.52 versions, and in that case, WebIDE is going to stop us with the syntax errors, and we won't be able to test the application like this before we deploy. So we might be ending up with a lot of round trips, deploy to backend and test there, and then come back and make changes and something like that. But we don't want to do that. Our time is very valuable right now. So let me go ahead and deploy the 1.52. So as this is the application version is still lower than the capability, that is 100% sure. The backend system will support the lower versions, in any of the lower versions of the application. Backward compatibility is available, so we don't want to worry much about it. So it will ask us to create an application name. So what is going to happen when we deploy this application here? So let me tell you, ZTH UI5 trip planner. So I'm just giving this name, but it's gonna restrict me up to 15 characters. So whenever we deploy this application, it's going to create a BSP application in the backend. So I select this package. Okay, next it's going to ask me the transport. Any transport is fine. So finish. So right now it is going to build the application, and if you see, there is a folder created dist. Okay, so it's gonna build the project to the compatibility of a BSP application, and in the backend right now it is running some job to create the BSP application, converting from this UI5 application that we have created. The BSP application created in the backend is not going to have the same structure that we see here. That's going to be a little different structure. So that's why we will be, as a developer or a customer, it's their responsibility to save this original source code, whereas the next developer, whoever comes and looks after this application, that will be more easy in terms of tracking this or making enhancements to this application. So in terms of the backend ABAP application or function module, whatever, so they are stored in the system itself. So in that case, we definitely need not to have this one, have any external services or things to store the source code. But in this case, the development source code is the structure is different, and the deployment type of the application is completely different. So in that case, it is a customer's responsibility to store this original development application code somewhere. So the place to store this original source code is going to be the GitHub, okay, GitHub or Bitbucket or whatever. So it is whatever the customer interest or customer has the agreements. So it's going to be GitHub, or it can be a Bitbucket as well. So there are more source code or providers like this in the market. It is absolutely left to the customer's choice. And how that is going to be saved, and if you right click on this one, you will see Git here. So in this Git, we will be pushing this complete project into the Git repository that the customer will provide us, so that whenever a new developer comes in, they can directly import this project from Git repository, so that they can easily make changes on this original application source code, and they will be able to easily deploy it to backend system. And another advantage of having this one is multiple developers, a team of developers can work on the same application, and they will be collaborate easily, and they will be able to push the changes into the Bitbucket or GitHub in terms of branches. So that's a completely the understanding how we deal with Bitbucket or GitHub. So we'll keep that aside for now. So the concept we should understand is, okay, the original source code of this application development will be separate, and that's going to be GitHub or Bitbucket. That's what our understanding should be. So if we develop something here and if we deploy back onto on-premise system, then it's going to create a BSP application. So these three key points we should take away from this particular one. Okay, so right now I saw some error here. I think I should make some corrections back in the backend system. It is avoiding something. Come on, let's see the detailed error. Let me click on next, and yep, let's pick up this one, trip planner. This is the description, and the package is going to be Thara. And if you see, as we have connected to backend system, all these information is being supplied by the backend system. So right now it is trying something. So let's see what is the error. So virus scan server error, could not deploy the application. UI5 infra app dt put path annotations.xml. Let me open this one. Unavailable. That's weird. Okay, let me take a pause. So in this case, what we have done to suppress the error here? So we have gone and maintained a virus scan profile here. So this is definitely not a developer task. Don't need to worry about it. As we struck with that error, we try to overcome that error at the moment. So we have gone to the transaction SM34 here, and in the SM34 vscan profile VC, this is the profile where we the system checks for the virus scans here. So we have the XML file which is part of our application, UI5 application, whereas if there is some media content or something like that in the file, and whenever we deploy to back onto our server, it's a basic principle that those virus scans will run, not to impact the system get impacted due to that files. So it does the same, and the virus scans were active in the system. That's the reason it didn't go ahead and deploy the application. So in this case, the profile, whatever we have seen in the error message, we have added a new entry in this transaction code, the virus scan profile. And once we maintain this profile, and again, we have gone to the gateway transaction IWFND. Let it come back. This is the transaction code, IWFND virus scan. Come on. Okay, so in this SM34, if you see, we have created this new entry here. So this is what the profile, UI5, the WebIDE has shown us. So this profile is stopping us. So there was no entry with this profile, virus scan profile. We have created virus scan profile initially in this place, and then we have gone to the IWFND virus scan, and we have selected this profile, and we just switched off this virus scan to make our application deployed onto backend system. So that's where we were able to deploy this one successfully. And now we see our application in the backend created as a BSP application with all the artifacts that we expected. So annotations, IATN, local service component, and like this. But if you see the structure from SAT, which is BSP application, and our WebIDE, so it's completely different. So whatever the components we see here, and they are all completely different. So the web app, whatever we see in the web app, inside the web app, so these are the things we see here once the application has been deployed, and rest all are not available here because they do not really need to be exist in the backend system. Okay, so perfect. So now we have deployed the application from WebIDE to backend system, which is a good news. And now let's try to understand the launchpad. So the launchpad, I think I have already shared this one. So if you open your desktop, there will be a notepad created. So there will be a link of launchpad available in your notepad. You can copy this link and you can paste it in the Google Chrome to open the launchpad, log in, and you can proceed. Otherwise, if you fancy to open the launchpad from your GUI system and you are pretty much happy to type the transaction code /UI2/FLP, and the reason is sorry, /n, we have to press /n/UI2/FLP. And in this case, if your Chrome is already opened, then the session will be, a new tab will be created on the Chrome. Otherwise, it's going to open in Internet Explorer. So that's why I just placed the common link on the desktop, and whereas you can bookmark it on your Chrome as well. So that's fine. So here, once the user logs into the system, the Launchpad, so here we see a lot of functionalities. I think we have seen some of the tiles and etc. How they are, the terminology, how it will look like on the Launchpad. So let it load. Refresh. Perfect. So here we see the nice things here. So these are all called tiles. So this is where we mention what is a tile going to be. So each one is a tile in this case. And these ones, these titles, whatever we see here, they are called groups. But in latest versions, the groups are made as pages, and these titles are being called as spaces and pages. But if we understand groups and tiles, then that's absolutely fine. But spaces is a combination, a collection of pages, and whereas pages will have the tiles. Okay, but to facilitate multiple groups and multiple pages or multiple SAP verticals of information, the SAP has classified them as spaces and then pages. Okay, we don't need to get confused. So if you see at the last here, you see some drop down here, and on your logins, you might end up seeing lot of groups enabled on your users. But on your own, you can go ahead and you can remove all the roles that are assigned to you, so that your launchpad also will load very quickly. So I did it for my user. That's why this the launchpad has loaded very quickly, and with a less number of groups here. So, and we see here my home page and this home and etc. I think you might already have been worked on this launchpad sometime, but if not, then this may helpful. Groups and tiles, and this is the user, logged in user. Okay, and user has more options like app finder. So if you don't remember, or you don't want to look for an app where it is exactly, the app means it's a tile, then in that case you can straight away go ahead and you can launch the app finder, where the app finder launch like this, and the categories will be displayed here, and so that you can type your keyword, the searching keyword, and it goes, and from this one, if you want to add a particular tile onto your home page, that is possible from here. Okay, so business partner governance, for example, so if you see these ones are not included included into my group, but if I want to add this tile from this group, I think I can go ahead and add this tile onto the group business partner governance. So these are all the list of groups I have in my login, and these are the roles assigned to me. And if you see all these tiles which are not added onto my group, I can straight away go ahead and add these tiles onto my group. But these are all available for me. And at the same time, if you go here and try to do settings here, and the settings also one of the interesting thing in your case. So right now, if I go onto my home page, so I don't see any scrolling on my launchpad. That is because I personalized myself. Going to settings, and in the settings, if you click on your home page, here there will be a, by default it will be show all content, but that will definitely take ages to load your whole launchpad, whereas it references and it makes thousands of calls to the backend to bring all the tiles information. To avoid that timing, and we don't want to end up spending more time on this waiting and as we are learning, so just choose this show one group at a time, which will definitely improve loading the tiles, loading the launchpad with less time. Okay, so I have choose this show one group at a time, so I'll be able to see one group at a time. So if I click on this one, then only these tiles will be displayed, and if they are dynamic or static, if they are dynamic, then only these calls will be sent onto the backend. If you see, whenever I click, they are pretty much very quick loading immediately. Okay, and if you want to edit anything on your home page, so if you click on edit home page, and if you want to add some apps onto your home page, then just click on them. Sorry, yeah, add group, and here on your home page, if you click on this tile, it's gonna take you to the app finder again, and in here, whatever you see here, add to my home. So you can add tiles onto your home page. So that's how I got tiles on my home page. And let me close this one. So these all tiles I have added on my own going into this one. So that will reduce our time finding our applications and going into the right tile in less time. And also the another one, so I have added the custom role, whereas we will be experiencing a few more topics, so everyone will see these Tara developers role. Okay, so this if you click on this Tara developers group, you will see lots of tiles here. So you will be working many of these applications where this is where we are going to experience in-app extensibility. So we might not to code at the extensive level, but using these capabilities, we will be achieving some functionality. Okay, so this is where it is for key users. So and these things here, we all know about it. So this is called the plugin, Launchpad plugin, if we want to. So right now we have the conversational AI plugin here. If we want to enable any plugins or something, the customer oriented, then they can be deployed using the concept Launchpad plugins. So they are going to enable at this place. So this is the notification, and this is the search bar. In the search bar, we will see by default all option, but you choose apps option. That will improve our time here. So for example, if I type custom, it brings very quickly. Okay, otherwise it will take a lot of time. We will be ending up with a lot of frustration here. So custom, and it's gonna immediately launch that particular application from that search as well. So in this case, this is about the overview of Launchpad. Come on, as this is not configured, I don't know how to close this one, but let me refresh this one and let's see if it goes away. Okay, perfect. So now, after this overview of this Launchpad, that's okay. So this is all the end user point of view, or something like to know about the tool. So what we are going to do here. So right now we have developed an application. Now we are trying to and deploy it onto on-premise system as well. But now we are trying to enable that for the end user. So in that point of view, we might need to know these terminology. So the terminology, we are going to add our application as a tile onto the Launchpad. Okay. So for this one, we will have another transaction to be launched. So the transaction, if you see here on the favorites, so UI2 FLPD cust. So this is what the transaction which we will be using. And if we launch this one, it's gonna open the browser again. So that is where we configure our tiles. So let us see that one, and here we will be learning catalog and business group tile, target mapping, and in the tile again we will be learning dynamic news. So these are the types of tiles we have, and this dynamic will show some graphs or key figures such as revenue or quantities, etc. And technically it will be making makes the OData call on load. So whenever tile loads, then itself it will make the call OData call, and it's just a static no OData calls. And this is again makes OData calls. Okay, so now let's see how and where we are exactly going to see this information. So this is what the customization, the Launchpad customization, or Launchpad configurator, or Launchpad designer, whatever we can call. So basically we call it as a Launchpad designer. So in the Launchpad designer, we will be adding the tiles, and the tiles, they are going to be enabled to the user. So in this case, as I said, we will be looking at this catalogs and the business groups. So the technical catalog is the one place where we register the application as a child. Okay, so the business group is the one which will be used to the user role. Okay, tiles technical catalog are referenced into this group. So technical catalog is the base. So if the tile needs to be registered on Launchpad, that has to come into the technical catalog first. Then from there, it will be going to the business group. So business group, on top of this business group, there will be user role. Okay, user role. In the user role, we can assign both technical catalog and business group. Okay, or technical catalog. But if we want to enable the tiles in this one, then definitely we should assign both business group and technical catalog to the user, so that the references will exactly match to the both of them. So in the technical catalog, what we will be registering, this will be the tile. Okay, and in the tile, what we'll have, we will have the target mapping. So this target mapping can be made to the UI5 application, which is a BSP application, or WebIDE Pro application, or a GUI transaction code. Okay, or an external URL. So these are all the options we have during the target mapping. So let's see all of them in action. So first, what we are going to do, we are going to do with the technical catalog creation. And in the technical catalog creation, we are going to create a tile, and we are going to do the target mapping for the same. And once this is done, we are going to create business group, and after that we are going to create user role, and after creating user role, assign the role to user. Okay, so this is the procedure we are going to do at the moment. Let us create the technical catalog here. So in this layout, if you see here, we have the catalog by default selected, and if you want to move to groups, we will click on groups, and then we will be moved to groups on this same page itself. Okay, so this is the list of groups, but as we wanted to create a catalog first, let's go to the catalog. So in the catalog, we see at the left side bottom, we see a plus icon here. Let's go ahead and click on this plus icon. We will be asked to provide some information here. What is the catalog title is going to be? Thara applications catalog. So let me name it Thara catalog. So the ID shouldn't have the spaces. Title, yes, it can go. It can go. Then save it. And whenever we do some saving, then obviously here, if you see the client 400 right side, there is a small icon here. So you need to click on this icon to choose the transport. By default, it's going to be a local object. Local object. If you want to capture all your changes into the transport, then obviously you should uncheck this one, and you need to choose the available transports here. Okay, so then only the changes, whatever you are doing here, they will be registered or captured in a transport, so that the same changes can be moved across in your landscapes. So right now we are saving it as a local object. So let me go to create a tile. If you see here, we have three options here. So tiles, and this is the list view of the same tiles, and next we see the target mapping here. So we are going to create a tile under the tiles. So let's click on plus icon here, and whatever we have seen here, the tile categories. One is the dynamic tile, static, and news tiles. So news, app, dynamic tile, and app launcher static tile. So each type of tile is going to be having the different options. If you see the static tile, so it's gonna ask some semantic object subtitle, and like this we have two columns. And if you go back and choose the dynamic tile, for example, and in the dynamic tile creation, you'll be asked with more options. Okay, so whereas we will have the dynamic data section here, so we will be needing to give the OData URL, whatever supplies the count or revenue count or whatever it is going to be. For example, the approval counts, so pending approvals, whatever the number of approvals pending with you. If we want to represent the count of that trip request, then we will be giving that service URL and this place. And also the interval, after how many seconds this has to be refreshed. So if you are still staying on the launchpad, by default this interval will be triggering after those many seconds that you specify in here. So automatically that will trigger the launchpad service will trigger a request to get the latest count. Okay, and for now and same thing with the new style. So if you go and look at these parameters, those parameters will be different. Why is it not coming? Nope. New style. The new style added successfully. Where is it? Okay. Maybe not showing. Let us go ahead and create the static tile at the moment. So app launcher, static tile. So in the static tile, so this is what the information will be displayed on our tile. So let me trip planner. If I want any subtitle, plan your travel, and so I can mention some keywords, and if I want information, I can give some information. And this is the icon. So if we want to choose any of the specific icon relevant to our app, we can go ahead and pick up any of the icon here. So I saw somewhere the flight icon. I would like to choose that one. So yes, the icon has been selected for our app. And this is what the important information what we need to give here, the semantic object. So the semantic object is the identifier by the launchpad, like what place you are going to navigate. Take this after clicking on this particular one. So it can have multiple target points based on this semantic object and action, and the same semantic object and action are used across the Fiori elements and across the Launchpad or across the UI5 applications if they want to navigate onto this application. So nobody is going to call like how we do in our ABAP programming. If we want to launch any of the GUI transaction code, we will just write call transaction and the transaction code, whatever. So that is the target point identifier for that particular transaction. But here the identification of the UI5 application is going to be semantic object and action. So even in our Fiori elements application, we are going to use a term called intent-based navigation. So the intent-based navigation is going to be specific to the semantic object and action. So if you give the right semantic object and the right semantic action, then only the intent-based navigation is going to happen. And if you are developing a freestyle UI5 application, then the terminology is called crash app navigation. So the crash application navigation happens only if you know the right semantic object and action. Otherwise, the navigation is not going to happen. Okay, the identification for the navigation inbound navigation to this application is going to be the semantic object and action. So action can be different, whatever, how the same application can be launched with different applications, different actions, I would say. But here we are just going to say maintain action. Semantic object is going to be let me say Z Tara trip semantic object. Let's say we'll name it like a semantic object, but generally they are going to be a meaningful names. Trip planner. So these semantic objects must be unique to the application to application. Otherwise, they are not going to launch properly. So if there is a collision between the semantic object and action during configuring the applications, then definitely not sure what decision the launchpad is going to take. It may launch this application or it may launch the other application, that we're not sure. And action, I would say maintain or display or whatever. So if you see, there are some helps available. So if you want to pick any of these actions from here, so you are free to pick the actions from those list as well. So otherwise, we are free to create any of our own actions. And now here we have parameters. Right now, we're not going to do anything with these parameters. It's going to be confusion in your case. So the target URL, if you see here at this place, it has prepared dynamically that on your launchpad, it's going to display like this: Tara trip planner -maintain. Okay, so this is how our tile is going to display at the moment. So Tara trip planner, plan your travel. So right now we have just specified how our tile should look like. Still, we have to tell this tile that, okay, so this is my tile information, that's fine. So now where it has to go, that's what is the target mapping. So if you go into this target mapping, again, it's a completely based on the semantic object and action, whatever we have configured. So they should match during the target mapping. So once we go there into target mapping, and in the bottom of the page, you will see create target mapping button here. So if you click on this create target mapping button, you will be asked, okay, that's fine. What is your semantic object? And what is your action? Maintain. Okay. So at this place, you are not being asked with any other title or something like that. So it's purely target configuration. Once user clicks on the tile, where the app has to go, what it has to launch, the functionality. So that's what the target mapping here. So if you see the right hand side here, application type, by default, it's going to be a SAP UI5 Fiori application. And if you scroll down on here, so if you see transaction, URL, and WebIDE Pro applications, and I see some SAP Fiori using LPD cust. This is, I think, using this application type is deprecated, so we don't want to worry about it. Even I'm not aware of that. So SAP UI5 application in our case. And if you want to configure any transaction, the parameters list will change automatically according to that. What is the transaction we are going to launch? So now we knew if we wanted to configure any of the transaction code as a tile. So this is the place we just come to the Launchpad designer and we create the catalog, or if there is a catalog already exists, we just create a tile and then the respective target mapping with the same semantic object and action. Then we choose the application type as transaction, and we give the transaction name here, transaction name. And if it is the system alias here, it is for the remote. If you are configuring this tile in your ECC system, and if you want to launch the transaction code of SRM system, that is possible. The system alias will help you to give the RFC destination name that you have created in your system. Okay, so and same thing for WebIDE Pro. So WebIDE Pro application name, what is the application name? And if you have any configurations, application configurations, you will be giving that application configuration name here. Otherwise, it's a plain application name. It's not configuration is not a mandatory. And whereas in case of FPM applications, then definitely configuration is going to be mandatory, because that will definitely not know which configuration needs to be picked up. And in case of URL, it's a straight URL, which third-party URL you wanted to launch from this particular tile. Okay, so whenever we use this URL, and we must be careful that some cross origin resource forgery requests will be, sorry, resource systems will be stopping this to happen. So CORS, we call it as CORS, CORS, cross origin resource sharing. So because whenever we launch the Launchpad, our host will be having this address s4hana2021.support.com. but whenever your URL, if it is saying http://www.google.com, so in this case the domain is not matching. So your system administrator must configure this. Okay, allow this from the proxy. So this is already verified, and happy to go ahead with this particular URL. We don't have any issues like that. So in this case, this is the only concern. And if you have any host and information configured in your RFC destination, then also in this case, this complete google.com will be configured in your RFC destination. Let's say zdest Google, and in this case it's going to be /search q equals to some word like this. The remaining part of the URL is going to be here. The runtime, launchpad runtime, what it is going to do, it's gonna pick up the host information from the system alias, and it's going to concatenate with this URL, and it's gonna launch all together whenever we click on that particular tile. Okay, so we have all these feasibilities built in, and if we want to pass or any parameters along with these settings, it is possible that using below section here, the parameter section. So if you want to pass any of those outbound parameters or inbound parameters, so this is definitely going to be the inbound. If we are launching this from any of the URL, and for example, if we have any trip ID on the URL, if we want to load particular trip informations directly, then we can include that particular trip ID as this one, and we can do that. So these parameters, once we understand this concept, these are all small chunks, so we can easily crack them down. So let me go ahead and register our Fiori application here. The title is going to be it's just Thora trip planner, and URL. So this URL is something which we need to take it from SICF. If you see, along with this BSP application, we will have a service created in SICF transaction code. So in the SICF transaction code, if you place your BSP application in service nameplace, you will see two places. So one is the BSP application and the UI5 application. So the difference technically, if we see, the UI5 application location is the one which Launchpad uses. There is no potential use of this one, but internally the BSP application is the reference for UI5 application. So if you double click on this UI5 application, you will see the URL here. So you just copy this URL onto the URL place, and at the end you just place your BSP application name, that is UI5 application name here. And in the ID place, ID is completely different than this application. This ID is going to be our component ID, application component ID. The component ID, how we can get this component ID, is going to be the best place. You open your BSP application and you go to manifest.json file on this one. So even if you open the WebIDE here, in the manifest.json file, we will see, if you go to descriptor editor, we will see the ID here. So this is the ID we should be using to configure the Launchpad tile, not the application name here. Okay. So in this case, if you see the manifest, ID is going to be the same, trip_list, the same ID. So we will copy this ID here, and we just place it in the Launchpad configuration here. So let's paste this ID. That's it, job done. Let me save it. So the tile has been created, and also the target mapping has been added to this one. Now it's perfect. So we have the tile now. Now let's go ahead and create a group for this. Okay, so in the group, Again, it's the same procedure. So whatever the way we created the technical catalog, we just go ahead and create the technical group here. Sorry, business group, create a group. This is the group title, whatever we give here, that is what is going to be displayed as a title on our launchpad. Okay, not the technical catalog title. So it's going to be the group title is going to display on our launchpad. So I would name it as Tara applications. So let me name it group, sorry, yeah, application group. So let me save this one. So the group has been saved, and if you see here, we have two things available: show as tile and show as link. So it's the name itself is easily understandable. If you want it to be display as tile, it's exactly same like this. And if you want that to be displayed as a link, then it will not be like this one. It's just displayed as a link, how we see the link on the web. Okay, so we want this to be displayed as a tile. I click on this tile here, and now it is asking us to choose the tile from catalog. So I just go to the help here. So here I search for Tara applications catalog. If you see, so this is the catalog we have created, the technical catalog. So now in this, we have finished this step. This is completely done. And now we are in this place. Okay. So the tile has been, the group has been created, tile from technical catalog or catalog or referenced into this group. So this is what we are doing at the moment. Okay, so we are searching for the tiles from the Tara application catalog. So if you see, we have this tile available, and there is a plus icon here. We just click on plus. That's it. We are not configuring any tile here. We are just selecting the tile which is already available in the technical catalog. Okay, so let me go back. Now I see my tile has been added to the Tara application group, and Tara applications is the title name. So fine, it has been added now. Now it's time to enable this tile to the user. So let me go to my backend system, and let me create a role. So I'm accessing PFCG transaction code here. So in the PFCG, I'm going to write Z Tara apps is the role. So let's single role. I'm going to create a single role here, create a single role, and description applications, and we don't have any target system. So if we want to maintain any description here, we can maintain Tara applications group launchpad. So menu. So menu is the one which we should be where we should be assigning our business group and catalog. So by default, it will be the transaction assignment. We are not going to assign any of the transactions into this one, but instead, if we click on the right side of this button, we will see the SAP Fiori Launchpad option here. So under the Launchpad, we will have these three options. So whatever I have said, Launchpad space, that is little advanced one, but we are on the Launchpad group, and we also have Launchpad catalog here. So let me assign the Launchpad group. And in the Launchpad, I can search for my group, available group, or if I have that group handy, I can straight away go ahead and give my group name. So let me say Zthara, and let us see. Yes. So this extensibility is the one I created last time, but this is the one which we have created. So this extensibility as a role we have available. That's the reason we are seeing all the Tara developers group there. But the Tara applications is the one which we created just now. I'm just selecting this one, and okay, that's perfect. So let's save it. Now my group has been added, and if I want to change the description, even I have option to change the description here as well. Okay, so this will be overwritten, and this will override the description coming from the group from the Launchpad designer. And if we see, we have some red marks on the authorization and user, and for this one we just need to regenerate it. It's not our concept anyway, the role creation and enabling to the user. It's just the template we need to choose. So I'll choose the developer role here. Okay, so now it's just saved, and I'm just clicking on the generate button here. It will go and generate the objects, whatever the authorizations and everything is required to run this one. Okay, so whatever it has been identified for the developer, and for all those developer roles, everything it's gonna activate for us. So that's fine. So now we have user assignment here. So in this user, this is place where we assign our users. So I'm going to assign my user here. Okay, so save it. That's perfect. So now I'll just do the user comparison so that it goes and adjust my user, and it comes back with green. So that's fantastic. Done. So let me go to the Launchpad and let me refresh it. So once we refresh this one, we should see our group available here. So let me choose from this list. Let me click on this one, and if you see here, Tara applications, we see in the bottom, second bottom from the list. If I click on this one, I don't see any tile here. Okay, so this is the mistake which we will be doing generally. So if they are built with composite roles and assign these catalogs and things like that, so the security team will be controlling them in the layers, different layers they have in the security concepts. But for us, what we need to do is, in the role, we should assign the technical catalog as well. So that's what is missing here. So let me go ahead and assign the technical catalog, that so that it goes and builds the reference and it shows the tile for us. The catalog ID Z Thara, and what is the name? Let us take help. So this is the app catalog that we have created. So let's select this one, and okay. Once we assign this one, so it has some expand as well. So if you see, whatever the OData services the user needed, it identifies by default whenever we add the technical catalog onto this one. So if user doesn't have any authorization, it's gonna give us the list of the logs to which the user doesn't have an authorization. But for now, as I have the developer access, so it didn't stop me that saying you do not have authorization. If I save this one, whenever we make changes to the role, then obviously we should regenerate the role, so that all the required authorization objects and the activities will be assigned automatically to the user. So now I have assigned my catalog as well, and let me see whether I'm able to see the tile. So let me go and access this one. Perfect. So we see our Tara trip planner tile here. So if I click on this one, you see the URL here. In the URL, we see our semantic object and action here. Okay, do you see the Tara trip planner as a semantic object and maintain as an action here? So this is how it's gonna navigate to our application from the Launchpad. It doesn't show us what is the name of the application or name of the BSP application, nothing. So it just picks up the semantic object and action. They are very much important in the S4 HANA world. So that's why I'm just stressing multiple times there. So that's fantastic. So if you see now, whatever the development we have done, we are able to deliver onto Launchpad. Okay, and now onwards, it works as we have tested our application using the WebIDE. Okay, so all the items, they are pretty nicely displayed. And here, if you see in our example here, we don't have any additional options available to export to Excel and etc. So they all have been added on the Launchpad, because the Launchpad, the system UI5 version is far better than the WebIDE version. So WebIDE has all these restrictions, but the export to Excel, all these options are made additional to this one. So, and also if you see here in the detail page, object page, we see some show detail button. So usually if the columns are more than the space of the table, then they are coming like this, right? So the excess fields will come into the next page here as a next line, and same thing happens here as well, because they are all mentioned as high importance. But in this case, if you see, there are some additional information which are hidden. We know that. That's the reason we have a show button available here, but the show details button not available here, because this is showing all the high importance fields in the initial page itself. So if you click on show details, it's going to display all these remaining information straight here. And hide details, it will hide and it will bring back to the original state of it. Okay, so rest all the features, fine, everything. And the another thing we tried testing is, so if I want to save this as a tile, I can go ahead and save this. And if you see, the count is being added automatically. That's brilliant feature that we have here. Subtitle, settlement pending. I'd say this, and let me save this as a tile, and this tile stays forever on my login on my home page. Okay, so if I go to my home page, you see trip planner settlement pending, the requests are 7. So with that, so we have not done anything on this one. So framework itself triggers a count and it creates on the fly dynamic tile for us, and it displays the count for us. So if I click on this one, it directly takes me to there, so which we have already seen on the WebIDE as well. Okay, so now we know how we can integrate things on Launchpad, the basic level, and there are some additional things where they are all completely depending upon the semantic object and action, and a few of them will be having the usage of parameters, but the base for all of them is to understand what is catalog and what is group. So catalog, we must have the catalog catalog, and so that we can add those tiles into the group. So if you look at this group that I have created, I have created for our tiles, whatever we see here under Tara developers. So these are all the tiles not created by me, or they doesn't exist in any of the custom catalog here. So these all the tiles have been added from the existing or SAP delivered catalogs. So I haven't created any catalog for this. Instead, I have referenced the SAP catalogs. So let us look at this. If you see, these are there are more tiles, 54, not 50, yeah, group, right? So there are 54 tiles. So they all referenced from different different technical catalog that provided by SAP. So that how I identified, again, I have taken the reference of SAP apps library, and I took the apps and their technical catalog from their configuration, and that's where I was able to add all these tiles into this group. And whenever I was creating the role and adding the catalog to this, I end up with these number of errors saying all these services were not active in your system. So then I had to go into the system and I had to activate all these OData services or register these OData services into our OData service catalog. So then the apps started functioning well. Okay, so in this case, if you see all these tiles are added, there is small eye icon here. So if you click on this eye, you will be able to see from which catalog this app has been added. So if you want to take a reference at this one, so you can go ahead and look at this catalog. Okay, so perfect. So we have learned how we will be deploying the application and different kinds of applications, and how the role takes place, how a business group impacts the way of tile behavior, and what is the role of technical catalog, and what kind of tiles we will be having, and how we will be registering our tile onto the Launchpad Designer. So these same principles and same concepts applicable or used when we go into the BTP Launchpad service. Okay, same catalog, group, role, all these we will be experiencing. So that is anyway, that is limited functionality, not like we have in our Launchpad designer. So when we move there, we will be just going following the steps. We will not be taking this much time to detail each and everything there. But this is the detailed overview about the Launchpad and registering the applications onto the Launchpad. So okay, so I think it's a more time today. That's fine. So I would like to stop here for today, and we will continue tomorrow. Thank you.